I'll put that in the survey in the website. So
Do we have the right sponsors list? We wanted to make sure we thank everybody at the end. Can we just check that with you real quick, Pete?
what's the sponsors?
Or the funders and supporters, I mean.
I don't think it's necessary to mention them. If you want to, you can.
Brittany came quick.
Yeah. Can admit or you could wait. I mean, do you guys want me to moderate that again, or do you guys have that under control?
I think it'd be best for you to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna punch at the end and just, thank everybody and then thank the, people joining as well.
Yeah, and maybe remind people when they're joining too that we're not officially started yet.
Yeah. Brittany, we haven't officially started yet.
Word.
All right.
Brittany, also feel free if you have any questions, throw them out there too. I know you're one of the main proponents of us doing this part too. So feel free to throw them out there and we can see if we can fit in direct answers to your question and what we're going to be presenting.
For sure.
Oh, cool. Hey, Brittany.
What up? What up?
I just found the list of who's in here.
Super dope music video, Brittany. Really awesome.
Oh, thanks, yo.
Yeah.
Probably the first music video that I'm really proud of. So I appreciate you checking it out.
No, it was really, really cool. Whoever, making it kind of like what was the TV show? Black Mirror,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah. I was just like, yo, I just want this to tell a story and I want it to be sci-fi and cool.
Yeah,
so
it worked.
Hey, we got Chris Amundsen coming in. Amy Gillette, Brittany, cool.
Hello, Amy.
We're going to start in a few minutes for those who are waiting.
Yeah, this is our warm-up period where we just kind of sit around and chat, drink coffee, and make sure people get in and get their mics and everything connected. See us and all that. I wish we had Zoom key commands to change your camera input with the keyboard command. That would be.
I'm sure there's a way to do that.
Yeah, if you go to keyboard shortcuts in preferences.
Is there one? Ooh.
Yep.
Oh, no way. Oh, Shift Apple N. Ooh. All right. This gets weird. Oh, no way.
Nice.
Oh, that's the wrong camera. Okay, so I got one too many cameras. I'll have to be here's the headphones I have loved, and that's the wrong one. Then there's, dude, you could do that. Man, ask for what you want.
So the resource guide is posted on our website right now under the survey on the homepage. So 25caracab.com.
Okay.
You can download that file.
For those of us who are just joining, we're going to start in a few minutes.
Oh yeah, Tim Vitullo. No way. Hey Tim, I set you up at Smiling Moose. I think it might have even been maybe a year ago or maybe 2 years ago. But hi, Tom Sarver. Oh, Bill Wolf's here. Look at this.
Salute to Mr. Wolf.
Hi, everyone.
Cool. Yeah, if anybody's doing, all right. Our basic idea for this workshop is to help all different kinds of performers make a show online. I don't want to start the whole presentation right now, but if you're here, think about, what you're doing and what you might need help with. So you could ask us a specific question like, hey, I'm working with an accordion choir and we all have accordions. How do we do that or something? Like, that's a crazy example, but we want to be really open to your questions and make sure that what we're doing is useful for your specifics. Each one of us has kind of worked out our own problem solving process for how to stream and how to, do our thing with whatever we do. And it's nice to have access. I know when I need help from other people with, graphics or whatever, it's really nice to have a place you can go find people, ask questions, get help with what you need specifically, and then, get an answer within a short amount of time. That's a huge resource. So that's kind of the overall idea of what we're trying to do here, is make this thing into a super useful situation for lots of different kinds of performances. Let's put my phone on vibrate.
I see you in the chat, Tim. We didn't hear you, but got you.
All right. Okay, group chat. Getting my little windows all stacked up right.
Yeah, the arrangement.
That keyboard command thing though, Jordan, that just made my day.
I'm such a shortcut nerd. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've been meaning to go in and change all my shortcuts, like you mentioned, Jordan, so that they're like the same in Ableton and Pro Tools. Definitely something I need to do.
It's like a bump, and it's like it's time consuming sometimes. But man, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely for Ableton, there's like the ones that I just it becomes like an unconscious thing, like cool. 7 o'clock. We're going to get started in a few minutes. For anybody who's just coming in now, this is Tech at 25, and we're doing a monthly series of workshops on different elements of audio, technical, video, lighting, camera work for the modern entertainment industry, which of course has just shifted to a new dimension, and that's got some really exciting elements and some other elements that can be challenging. So we're here to help put the pieces together, help people do what they love doing, and make it a little bit easier than doing it by yourself, I guess, is the super intro. So thanks for coming in. You can pepper us with all the questions you can think of, and we'll try to get them handled. Oh, thanks, Pete. Pete just put in a link. There's a resource guide. We're gonna talk about some technical equipment too, to give you an idea of what kind of gear will make your life easier when you're doing your thing. I don't want to give away any secrets, but you can grab the resource guide, and then you don't have to memorize everything. I know when I go to like webinars or video things, I'm like trying to write down notes and look at stuff and take screenshots and all that stuff. We want to make it easier for you to absorb everything so you can hang out with us, listen, enjoy, ask questions, and you don't have to worry about losing any links or anything later.
We're going to do a Q&A at the end as well.
Yeah. 702 participants, 14 people. Oh. Is everybody here in Pittsburgh? I wonder if you can you all type in the chat and tell us if you're all in Pittsburgh or if anybody's outside the city or coming in from another location. I'm just curious. I like to hear where people are coming from. Sometimes when I do Facebook Lives, I get people from like crazy other time zones or West Coast or East Coast. Kristen, Pittsburgh, thank you. 412, yeah, Brighton Heights. I'm in South Side right now. The Pittsburgh. Oh, 217. Where is 15217? Squirrel Hill, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. Luckily, it's feeling quiet for me tonight. I'm right on a place upstairs from a storefront and East Carson Street. And sometimes I have like a posse of Harleys going by. They're blasting their engines and radios and everything. I think the snow kind of took that down a little bit. Oil City. Oil.
Squirrel Hill, home of Aila's Pizza, the sausage pizza, the pepperoni rolls. They cannot be denied.
Making me hungry.
Come on, man. Ooh.
All right. Looks like 7:03. For anybody just coming in, we're going to start in just a few minutes talking about streaming your performances and getting your whole identity into a digital format.
The digital realm.
The digital realm, yeah. How to be digested by the Matrix.
Should we like for the next workshops like have like just like really awesome and like intro, just low set of music, just you know what I mean, just getting
Yeah,
everybody
we totally
hyped.
should have background music going on.
I know a producer.
Really? Imagine that. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, we need like an epic theme song.
We could do a workshop about making intro music for your live stream, and then Steve can create the track live.
Yeah, I was listening to different. I was having a conversation about Spotify playlists yesterday with my friend, and we were like, there's going to be a whole generation of people whose experience with like what we call classical music is all going to be coming from like Pixar and Disney soundtracks, or these big epic scenes of like Danny Elfman soundtracks and stuff like that that are all basically coming from the movie industry instead of concert halls and orchestras and stuff.
Just from a dad's point of view, it's nutty, but all the Pink Fong music is all based on classical music, and they have like videos on there for toddlers where it breaks down like where who the composer is, what the actual symphony is, what the dude plays violin. It's really cool, and it ties in like Baby Shark. So you're like, oh, okay.
Baby Shark.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So we got about 16, 18 people, 7:05. You all ready to kick it off here?
Let's do it.
Let's get started.
Okay, so everybody, welcome to Tech at 25. I'm Steve. We got Carolyn here, Jordan, and Pete. And we are doing a series of live workshops once a month right now to introduce aspects of audio, video, lighting, and camera work that you would use in the events technology business. For a super quick introduction, we're going to talk today about how to live stream your performance. So that means if you're a DJ or you're a solo acoustic singer, or you're making your own beats and performing on top, singing, emceeing, or if you're in a band, or if you're doing there's all kinds of ways that people play music and do shows. So we're going to talk about how to get that into a stream that you could send out to the platform where your audience is, whether that's YouTube, Twitch, Facebook Live, Discord, or any other kind of platforms. And we're going to talk about just some of the things that'll make it a little bit easier so you know what to expect, how to get great quality sound, and how to not be stressed out when you're on camera so people who are watching can have a good time. That's basically the quick intro. Y'all want to say hi real quick and talk about where you came from?
Yeah, so I'm just going to give you guys a quick intro. If you're not familiar with 25 Carrick, we are located in Carrick, outside of Pittsburgh, and we are a branch of HearCorp, which is a local production company. And we're a nonprofit, and we aim to educate people in the entertainment industry. So last year we started out by doing a summer camp where we taught teenagers all different parts of the industry, and actually ended up employing them at HearCorp, doing stuff in live events. And then I went into a school last November, and just added on to their media class, and was able to bring in all of the hardware and the mixers and all the audio gear to actually give these kids hands-on experience in a school that can't afford that gear on its own. So that's just a little bit of what we aim to do. So now in this age, in the middle of COVID, we've built a lot of different curriculum based on the entertainment industry, on video, audio, lighting, and everything in between. And so now we're kind of adapting to the whole online thing, which is how this was born here.
Right, and we're going to be doing a series of these. These are called the Tech at 25. They are free, obviously, as you guys know, but it is donation-based, so that we can keep this going, keep the educators that you guys see here employed, all right? Like she said, COVID has changed a lot of our lives and transitioned even our programming into being something that's more malleable, something that also can be offered virtually. So as we move forward, we're going to be doing anything from after-school programs to hands-on in-person classes. We're really malleable. We have what you guys can see on the website there as far as the modules, where we go over audio, we can go over lighting, we can go, right there. But again, like I said, everybody has different needs, whether it be a school, an after-school program, or this is for an organization, a company. You want to just get your staff better acquainted with how to utilize the technology that they're going to be using moving forward from COVID. And then, of course, this is all just expediting a process of technological expansion that we're all going through in general. So you're going to see, a lot of the things that we're dealing with in these modules be more utilized in your personal lives.
So as
Yeah.
we're going through our workshop today, sorry to cut you off, Carolyn. Did you want to say something?
I was just going to throw in that we're actually going to be offering one-on-one consultations as well. If you need more info after this workshop on your specific gear or your specific setup, then we can do a one-on-one Zoom chat with you as well. And if you're interested in that, you can email me at carolyn@25carrickave.com, and that email address is also in our resource guide.
That's what I was going to say. There's a resource guide that goes with this. It has our contact info at the top. We would love to get in touch and help you with your specific needs. And as we go through the workshop, we're going to run through some suggestions on the equipment we use, where to get it, how much it costs, what you might need for your setup. And don't worry about taking notes and memorizing everything right now. It's in the resource guide, and we're going to send it out to your email after the workshop to make it super easy for you to find what you need. So it looks like I just lost. Okay, Zoom's back. All right, so let me jump in with what we're presenting is how to transfer your live performance into streaming. And the basic idea is that if you're a performer and you've done a sound check in front of an audience or right before the audience is there, that's basically the same kind of stuff we do for streaming, where you need to check your equipment, make sure it sounds good for you and that you can hear what you need, and then getting it into the digital stream. And this is my stream motion for having a left-right stereo thing that goes into the digital domain. The audio setups for this can vary a lot. We're going to introduce you to the simple, most affordable ways to transfer your live performances in. And honestly, it's not that big of a deal. There's a lot. I mean, the industry has come so far with making it accessible and easy. So we're going to show you how we do it and what's going on. And you can really get this done by yourself at your house with the equipment you have. And then if you want to up-level it with a minor investment, there's a couple things you can do to make it a little better. Maybe a camera, headphones, a little bit of lighting, that kind of a thing. Keep your questions, keep them ready. You can type them in the chat, and we're going to have a Q&A afterwards where we can talk about different people's things. It might help to keep your mics muted. It looks like everybody's doing a good job with that, just because sometimes there can be background noise on the Zoom universe. Now, we're all going to introduce ourselves a little bit before each of our segments. So I'm going to start with that. My name is Steve. I can see Brittany, cool. I had a probably about 10-year career as a DJ and producer when I was living in New York and Europe, making my own electronic tracks, playing out, doing DJ gigs, and working as a live sound engineer. So I'm putting that all into this segment of how to stream as a DJ or with your DJ gear. So I guess the first thing I want to talk about is a concept called monitoring. Now, as a DJ, what you do is you grab your headphones and you're queuing up the tracks. Everybody has their favorite ear. So what you're doing is you're listening to the music in the room that everybody in the club is hearing. And then on the other one, you're previewing the next song that's going to come in so you can monitor that and get it ready to bring in. So, hey, Tanya Grubbs is coming in. So monitoring is something as a DJ you have to do because you have to listen to what the audience is about to hear. You have to monitor the level of your whole set and monitor the level of the amps in the room. So in our streaming analogy, monitoring the level of the sound in the room, like how loud the PA system is, that's like monitoring your stream broadcast level. So just as a general concept for everybody, monitoring is really important. Like on a sound check on stage, you want to make sure the keyboard, the guitar, the drums, the vocals are all, effectively mixed, especially vocals. So monitoring is a key concept. And I want to talk about headphones I have loved. Everybody wants to know about headphones. DJs probably know about headphones, but since I have this super cool new key command where I can flip to camera view, here's my camera view. These are some headphones I have loved. First, we have Sony MD7506. We'll have a link in the resource guide. These were the first ones I bought in 1999. There were gigs when I went to the bathroom really quick, and I was like, why do I have all these little black flecks around on my face? And it was like this stuff coming off my headphone cups. So these are cool. You can collapse them like this. The reason these lasted me 20 years is because you can wrap them up in a little ball, and they don't break. So you might want to grab something like that. In the middle, I have a pair of Yamahas that are sort of cheapies. Really cool thing about these are your headphone adapter. And if you're a DJ, you don't want to be at the gig with this little plug when you need to be at the gig with this plug. That might not apply to streaming exactly, but just little stories from the trenches. And another thing you'll see in the resource guide are these Audio-Technica headphones, ATH M50X. These are all reasonably, they're great quality. They're not the most expensive on the market, but they're really good and they'll last you a long time. So you're gonna need a pair of headphones so you can hear what you're doing and get it sounding good for your crowd. And back to camera land, here I am. See, I did a little lighting in the background. You might have heard a joke that says, if you're not redlining, you're not headlining, meaning the popular DJs push the volume up loud, make everybody feel good. There was a time when that might have been true, when people were doing all analog stuff with DJ mixers and, you know, there was a protection circuit in the DJ mixer. But as a streaming DJ, you don't want to redline everything. Louder is not better. Jacking up your volume is not going to help you have a good set. This relates back to the concept of monitoring, but now you need to monitor the level of your whole stream output. So if you're streaming in the box with like Traktor or Ableton Live or some, you know, other audio program, you want to keep an eye on your main output level and make sure it's staying at a constant level so that when it gets into the stream, it comes back out to people who can hear it, set their volume in the room and enjoy it without the volume going way up and coming way back down and way up and way back down. So the main idea is monitoring. You have to build a new awareness of how loud your stream is going out. Like when you're DJing in a club, it's intuitive. You walk around the room, you're like, it's way too loud or it's not loud enough. It's a lot harder to do that when you're streaming because you can't really hear what the audience hears. You're not in the same acoustic space. So start thinking about monitoring and understanding that you're gonna have to think about it when you're playing out. So for digital DJs, the easiest way is to play from we call it all in the box, where you're running streaming. I mean, you're running a DJ software, you go into your audio outputs and you connect it into your digital stream all within your computer. We're not going to get totally into the streaming platforms today. I mean, there's, you know, YouTube, Facebook Live, and Instagram, and, you know, all these other ones that have their own native streaming things. We're going to do another workshop on the streaming software like OBS or things that help you connect all the parts of your camera, mic, audio to make it sound good. That we discovered that's another whole workshop, and we're excited to do that. But for today, we want to talk about, you know, just the simple stuff. So in the box mixing means you have your laptop, you have your headphones maybe plugged into your laptop output from your, you know, headphone jack. You listen to your monitoring, keep an eye on what your output level shows somewhere in your software, and it goes out to the stream. I personally like to have a second device to monitor, to look at what the audience is seeing. So that could be my phone, an iPad, a second laptop, or a friend who's over with a laptop, so that when I'm doing my performance, I have someone right there with me, maybe not on camera, but they can just look and confirm, yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can see you. Yes, it's in focus. Everything's all good. Go with it. Don't worry about it. That helps a lot, you know, having somebody to just really perceive what the audience is doing. Now, how do you get your audio into the computer? If you're all in the box with software, it's pretty easy. You go to the options menu, select the right one. If you're doing something like DJing with a controller, like Native Instruments, you know, has these like kind of platform things. I'm sort of speaking to the whole audience. DJs know what I'm talking about. There could be like a thing where you've got a bunch of faders and sliders and knobs, and you can touch it with your hands because that makes it easier to DJ. That might have a USB output that takes, you know, the signal and makes it digital. But if you don't have a controller and you're not using digital software, like what do you do if you're playing from vinyl or playing from CDs? I think Carolyn's going to be able to screen share and show a actual DJ mixer.
Well, I have one right here.
Yeah, okay, so there's a 2-channel Stanton DJ mixer, and you know, the faceplate is where you touch and do all the stuff in the DJ Magic. Can we flip it around and look at the outputs? The name of the game here is to get something from these output jacks into your computer. And to do that, you're gonna need an audio interface, which is basically a converter from analog to digital. Analog is like copper cables, wires, jacks, plugs, that kind of thing. And digital is like, you know, USB, FireWire, Ethernet, that kind of stuff that takes it into the stream. So the concept of the audio interface is a really big thing that you're gonna need to grab. And this relates to monitoring as well. So from your DJ mixer, you need to have the levels up loud, so they're kind of like as loud as possible without turning red. And then you need to convert that with an audio interface to go into your digital stream. And again, the audio interface takes in sound from something like a DJ mixer, or it could be a bunch of microphones, which we'll get to later. It converts it to a digital stream that you can connect to your audience through your platform. I have a saying I like to say called flip it around and look at the outputs. And I want to show you a super mini one. Move my headphones I have loved into a pile. And this is a basic audio interface. It's got on the front, you know, a couple volume knobs, headphones, output. And if you want to know what a piece of equipment does, and this is actually a universal trick, if you see a piece of hardware and you don't know what it is, flip it around and look at the back, because that almost always tells you what you need to know. We've got on this side line in. So I would take my DJ mixer master left, right, put him into there. If I had a mic to talk to the crowd, I'd put it in there. And then instead of the line out going to a speaker stack or going to a recorder, we're going to use, well, reversed, the USB output. So my DJ mixer comes in, USB goes to the laptop, that takes it, puts it up on Twitch, puts it up on YouTube. And this little box could take a pair of turntables and a mixer and turn them into your stream. And that might be the right way to go for you. If you're comfortable working with a DJ mixer, it could be the best way to do it, to get a small audio interface, because the reason is for monitoring, you can have your headphones on, you got your solo buttons, your cue buttons, you can mix just like you're used to mixing on the DJ mixer, and your audio interface takes the whole thing and puts it on the stream. And I think that's a great way to mix, because if you're in the box and you're trying to like DJ and cue up and you have to like use the mouse to click on your cue buttons and there's not as many places to use your hands, that can get a little bit more confusing and distracting. So I actually prefer to have a real DJ mixer, even when I'm playing from Ableton Live with a 2-channel or a 4-channel output. I like to bring my stuff into a physical mixer so I don't have to map controllers for every EQ knob and fader and crossfader and head and preview switch. It's like, you gotta have your own workflow and figure out how to make that happen. But I hope those are a couple of simple ideas to help you with getting a simple DJ stream out to your audience. And on the topic of audio interfaces, Jordan's going to take it and talk about adding in something like a mic and go into the next step.
Thanks, Steve. So guys, you got to bear with me, all right? Because what we're going to, as we continue this, we're going to get a little bit more in depth, which some of it requires, your level of understanding is going to be based on your own, level of understanding. So I'm going to try to talk in general terms, and we're also going to get into some of the specifics of what audio engineers deal with every day. So when we're talking about what Steve just was speaking on, we're talking about the basics of getting an interface which would get your sound from microphones, from keyboards, from guitars, from whatever you have into your computer, where you can now output it to whatever streaming source you have. Now, one of the main ways people are streaming nowadays is been Instagram. And with the invention of the iPhone, one of the coolest companies that has come out, they make something called the iRig. Now the iRig, if you guys look on the screen here, they make a variety of projects. It started off as just being a 1/4-inch input and an RCA input. Now they have one for almost every situation. I'm going to be kind of selling this, so maybe they should sponsor us for the next one. But the cool thing about the iRig is that it enables you to take whatever you have, even up to doing a small mix of a band, and plug it directly for your lightning cable into your iPhone, which will allow you to go to Instagram, you can go to Facebook, you go to wherever you can stream, right? Zoom, any of those things. So if you're thinking about a cool consolidated way to get maybe analog sound, your guitar sound, your single setup, and direct it straight to your stream, you might forego a laptop completely, depending on how you set it up. The other cool thing about the iRig as well is portability. So you can take this anywhere. You can put it in your bag. You guys can go, you fly wherever. You could set up in an airport if you wanted to and live stream an acoustic performance, which is, again, this is technology that 15, 20 years ago would kind of not even be something we would talk about. We'd just be thinking and dreaming about it. The next step from that would be something that's like a 2-mix digital, little digital handheld recorder, like a H6, H4n. Zoom is a very popular company that makes these. Now with these are very popular for even in the real world outside of streaming, with being able to take a 2-track mix out of a mixing console at front of house or at the monitor side of stage, and be able to get a quality mix from the engineer and record it. Now, to get back to the interfaces, right? So we talked about iRigs, we talked about little handheld recorders, which are also cool because you can take the microphone from the front of those little handheld recorders and pick up a stereo image and also record whatever is coming in through the XLRs. Now, when you get to interfaces, I have something that's similar to Steve's. With 2020 and anywhere in the last 10, 15 years, you've seen a lot of the companies that are known in the audio business for having the top quality consoles, full format, 96 channel, huge things. The things you see in multi-million-dollar studios, to keep up, they're now making interfaces as well. So this SSL, this is a very, very popular company. It comes out of England. They are, again, if you go to any multi-million-dollar studio almost anywhere in the world, you're going to find an SSL console, you'll find a Neve console, you'll find an API console, and now they've started to switch to digital, where you might find a C24, Digital Design, you can find a Digicoast, which we also have at HearCore. Again, what Steve said, always check out the back. So once we get to the back, you'll see that there's just a few more options here than what Steve had. What's really cool about these new interfaces is most of them come with an input that can both be 1/4 inch and XLR. So you have the option of coming in stereo with maybe an output from a mixing console or from what Steve has, like a DJ rig. You could also plug in singular a microphone and also plug in, say, a guitar. Say you can plug in anything, right? Next over here, you see you have RCA, the outputs, which Steve also had. And you also would have noticed the iRig, and specifically the streaming iRig, it has RCA inputs. So you'd be able to come out of a DJ rig, come out of this, and go straight into an iRig, straight into, or again, if this is going to be your the thing you utilize just to go straight to stream, then this is all you need. We also have MIDI on this side. So for those musicians out there, you're able to control, you can plug in a MIDI controller, whether that's the machine, whether that is a keyboard, anything like that. Flip it around. This is where you get to gain staging. So engineers, if you're at a show, you see all those microphones on stage, you see all those artists on stage, and you're figuring, okay, where are all the sounds going? How is it coming out and sounding like it's, on an album with, of course, the big room sound? It's because somebody's back there and they're looking at each input. So with us, we have these 2 inputs. So we're dealing with something pretty small scale. We say, okay, we start at 0, and each one of these you're going to turn up until you see metering. So some interfaces are going to have metering. Some interfaces you're going to just have to look on your computer screen to be able to figure out how far you're pushing it. Now, we go back to what Steve said again. Back in the day, when we weren't dealing with as many 1s and 0s, you could pump it, you could push it into red, and the circuitry itself would add like a warmth, it would add a sound, a color to what you're presenting. Nowadays, you're dealing with 1s and 0s. To bring it back to what I said about some of these cool companies, some of the vintage companies making these interfaces, is now you do have the option to kind of push the gear. You can push the hardware a little bit because what's inside here is actually analog, and then it'll convert it afterwards to digital. Again, bear with me. We're gonna go down from the audio interface. Yeah, so we talked about gain staging. Now, when it comes to microphones, every microphone is a good microphone in its own usage. So comes back to what Steve said as well, is like, this is a day and age where you can use microphones from anywhere. You can use interfaces from $50 to $1,000 to $5,000. It's about learning your gear. It's about setting up your microphone or whatever performance, making sure that you're gain staging the proper ways, and it's all going to come out sounding pretty awesome. So I have a few microphones here. This right here is a little stereo microphone. What you're going to see more commonly than not, and we're going to get back to this, is something like this, an SM58. And then here's something that we might use on a guitar cab. So if we come back to the interface, again, we might have a vocal mic coming out, and we're talking directly into that. We might have another mic set up on a guitar amp, on a guitar cab, or maybe on an acoustic guitar. So that would be your means of, again, with just 1 or 2 channels, getting a live performance, whether it's acoustic, whether it's just your single vocals. And then that also stretches into some of the new age things with streaming, like gaming. People are now producing microphones that can skip this whole entire interface and plug USB directly into your computer, into your laptop, which is a very good, cheap, affordable option for somebody who, A, wants to upgrade the way that their stream is put across, maybe in meetings, but B, more so for people that are trying to take their what they do every day and they're streaming to a more professional sound and a more professional level without spending a few $100s on an interface. Let's see where we're at here. Again, please bear with me. This is a lot of stuff to try to go through. When we start to talk about microphones, we start to talk about different inputs. We also are going to start to talk about mic placement. So a lot of people you'll see on stage, especially in things like hip hop or in loud rock music, when a vocalist is actually holding the microphone, they tend to cup the actual capsule right here. So you cup it, you see people going like this, doing all of that. These are the type of things when you're doing a stream, especially, and when you're in a controlled environment, that you have to start to focus on. You have to start to care about the way you hold things. Again, especially when you don't have an audio engineer. What we're talking about now is a line between being able to do something yourself, being able to just do it all at once, and actually needing somebody else to be there with you. Because imagine that you put in months, years into creating this art that you're trying to get across to people, but you're sitting there and you're jumbling or you're having little technical issues. So that's where an engineer comes in. And again, you can always email Carolyn if you guys have any personal needs, anything from a vocalist all the way up to a band, which Carolyn's going to be into. Now, when we're talking about microphones, there are a variety of different, what we call pickup patterns. So not every microphone is good for every situation, but like I said before, every microphone can be good for a situation. So if you look at what Steve has there, he has a number of little different microphones there. I'm trying to see his screen. It looks like you got, what do you have there? A 58?
Yeah, this is an SM58, and the reason I painted it orange is that this is such a popular mic. You find them in every club. I know you all have seen them. I literally painted mine orange because when I go home at the end of the night, I don't want to have an argument about whose mic is from the club and which one's from the sound. Like, I just spray painted my mic. I don't care. I want it to look good. I mean, it's whatever. That's what it is.
And the coolest thing the coolest thing about those are dynamic microphones. So you're able to hit those with loud sounds. They don't need any power. They don't need a power supply. They don't need phantom power, which we're about to talk about. So they're very, very, very good. You'll see Shure mics, 57s, 58. You'll see those type of things on vocalists. You also see them on guitar cabs. You'll see them everywhere. You see them on drum sets. The 57 in particular is one of the most versatile mics. I believe Carolyn has one right there.
Yep.
It's one of the most versatile mics. It's about $90. You get 2 of those. And I mean, again, even in the professional world, you go to a multi-million-dollar studio, you might see 2 57s set up on a guitar cab on an offset. Now, the next kind of microphone you might step into is called a condenser. Now, condensers are used, they're much more sensitive, and they're used to pick up not only quieter sounds, but more complex sounds. And they do require power, which is 48 volts. And that comes back to that term phantom power that I had just spoke about. So phantom power is a DC voltage. It's sent through the cable that is connected to your microphone. Any cable can do this. Most interfaces do have a 48 volts button. So if you look on mine, at the top here, there's a 48 volts button. So if you ever plug in a microphone and you're not getting signal, again, you don't want to just shoot 48 volts because there are things like ribbon microphones and things of that nature, which you probably won't have, but you can damage a microphone with it. But more often than not, if you do have an issue where you're not getting a sound and the microphone's good, it's probably because it needs some power. So once you hit that 48 volts, you'll start to see sound, you'll start to see signal on your interface or in your DAW. And again, you're just going to be playing with the gain staging. Gain staging is super, 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 super important. I know for anybody out there who's been a DJ or anybody that's used different DAWs, you notice when you even import 2 tracks, sometimes it comes out like a brick. Sometimes people send you files and they look just like a straight rectangle, right? In all these situations, it's the gain staging that people are using, whether it started off with the musician, whether it was with the engineer, whether it was with the mastering engineer, or whether it's with the broadcaster. Sometimes people send beautiful mixes. A very good example of this was when Guitar Hero came out. Guitar Hero came out and people were complaining that Metallica's songs on there sounded way better than what they were sounding like on the album. And that's because they were mixed for Guitar Hero and they weren't mixed by a mastering engineer for putting it out in the world. And that was like a very big break in the industry. So again, you got to watch your gain staging. People do brick out. People do just hit the red line the whole time. But if you want a quality feed, if you want to be able to have full control over the bandwidth of your band and get, again, we're trying to have people at home who we don't even know if their speakers are good or if their headphones are good to have the best quality experience. It's going to vary with every person that listens. So the best thing you can do as a presenter, as an artist, as anything, is to make sure that everything you can do on your side to make it sound good going into the box, you're doing. All right. Going down from there, again, excuse me for the scroll. This is a lot of information, but it's all really good information. And this is all the basis of what engineers learn before they go off into the real world. They go work for a studio, they go work for a broadcast company, they work for HearCourt, and you have to learn how this stuff applies to every single mic. How does this apply to every single speaker system? How does this apply to every environment, which is something Carolyn's going to be talking about soon with the acoustics of a room. And again, these are all things that you can do as an artist, and this is what an engineer would be doing for you, but this is what you can do as an artist to ensure when you're starting to broadcast this out, it does have the most consistent and quality sound that you can possibly give them.
Yeah, I want to back you up on that, that the things we're teaching in our training program and our workshops are designed to be super practical right now at the home studio level, but we're teaching you the real audio engineering theory and basics. So if you wanted to get a job in a company doing production or in a theater or in a broadcast studio, the things that you learn now are going to still apply for the rest of your life, because this is universal technical stuff that's going to keep working. You have to be open to learn new things, but the basics are going to stay the same.
So we're talking about the basics. We're talking about just getting vocals in. We're talking about now with the addition of what I said with this interface is being able to add just one other instrument. Maybe you have a guitar, maybe you have a track, maybe you're going in MIDI just to be able to play your, say your MPC or some sort of controller and do that live. But once you get past this, you start to get into the realm of multi-channel recording, multi-channel broadcasting, and that's where Carolyn's going to come in and let us know a little bit more about the details on that.
Yeah, so like Jordan said, we're kind of like on the line of, you know, when you may need someone else to help you out. I mean, like once you have more than like 3 or 4 inputs, you're going to need to mix them together, which I'm sure you guys all know, like that's what an audio engineer is trained for. So, you know, there might be a point where maybe you just need someone to mix, or, you know, like we're talking about all this expensive gear, and especially if you're in like a full band, it's going to be very costly to get all of this gear. So another benefit to hiring someone is that they may own all that gear and bring it with them, you know, so that you don't have to do that. So that can save you a lot of money as well. And that's also, you know, going to benefit you in other ways because, you know, having an audio engineer there, we're very experienced. We've, you know, dealt with all kinds of issues at shows before. So we know how to troubleshoot. We know what to check when certain sounds come through the system and stuff like that. And it's really important, in addition to the audio monitoring, that someone's monitoring your stream in general to make sure like your internet doesn't go out or like your camera doesn't go out of focus or something like that. So it can be really helpful to just have someone who's there just for the tech stuff and not any music part at all. And then, yeah, and so your audio engineer is going to be able to mix your band as well. And, you know, like you can't replace a trained ear. I mean, I'm sure there are tons of musicians who have really good ears who can mix, and that may be you. But, you know, if that's not something that you're not super comfortable with, then I definitely recommend hiring someone to mix it just like a live show. You know, it's the same concept, except you're going into a computer instead of a sound system. And along the same lines, like you're going to need to sound check in the exact same way that you do at a live show. So if you play in a full band and, you know, you have to be there an hour before doors in order to do a sound check, it's going to be the exact same thing for a live stream. So make sure your drummer's on time for sound check. You know, we are doing the same thing. We're going to be gain staging. The engineer is going to check every line to make sure everything's working, troubleshoot anything that may not. And there's really no replacement for having someone to do all of that. So I want to also give you an alternative. You know, Jordan introduced some really great microphones, and they're also very affordable, but you may not have all that money. And if you want to regularly stream your band, a really good option to do is just use room mics, which means just using 2 microphones. If you're familiar with recording, you may know what I'm talking about. But basically you use 2 microphones as the left and right side. And you're able to pick up all of the sound in the room from far away. And for something like that, you'd want to use a condenser microphone. I believe Steve has an AT2020 with him, which is one of the microphones that we have in our resource guide. And these microphones are $100 each. So, you know, it's going to cost you $200 to mic the whole room. But I mean, that saves you, as opposed to a drum set, guitar and bass, and getting like 8 drums on your 8 mics on your drums, and then a mic on your guitar cab and a mic on your bass. You know, in the long run, that's going to save you a lot of money. But the issue with that is, you know, like if you're just drums, guitar, and bass, like that's going to be pretty good because you're all self-amplified. But if you have a vocalist in your band, as you can imagine, they're not going to be easy to hear in the room, along with all of the other instruments. So that's something that you have to plug in addition to your room mics, which is where we're getting into more than 2 inputs on an interface. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about mixers. So you can see a small one that Steve has there. And that's just a small version of like the big mixers that you see at a venue. And the cool thing about these mixers is that if you already have an interface or like an iRig or something, you can plug all of your instruments into the mixer and then just take the master output and send it right into your interface. And what Steve is showing you on the back of his right there is actually a digital output. So it's actually a really good investment to invest in a mixer that's digital, because what that does is it allows it to do a 2-track interface job. So basically you're bypassing the need for an interface, and you can take your master left and right out of your mixer into your computer, which is really cool. And then obviously you can see there are lots of knobs, lots of inputs and outputs. So that gives you a lot more options. So Steve was talking a little bit about monitoring. And that's going to be really important, even more so if you are in a full band. So if you play in a full band, you play out in live shows, I'm sure you're familiar, maybe, you know, depending on the state of Pittsburgh venues that you've played, you're usually listening to yourself in monitors on stage. And your engineer is usually the one who's giving you, you know, your vocals and your tracks, whatever you may need in your monitors. And that's going to be the same thing that you need to do for a live stream as well. So if you're just doing it by yourself, you can just plug your headphones into your interface and you're good to go. But if you have like 3 members in your band, you're going to need everyone to have their own headphone mix. And maybe you want to listen to the same thing, which is no problem. You know, there are lots of outputs on a mixer. But if you all want to hear separate things, like maybe your drummer just wants bass and vocals and your vocalist doesn't want anything except guitar or something like that, then you're getting to the line once again where you need to hire someone to create those mixes and make that sound as good as possible for you. And that's such a crucial job. Being a monitor engineer is so important because that allows you to hear yourself clearly and not have to worry about anything and put on your best possible performance. So monitoring is definitely something that is really, really crucial in any part of live streaming or audio in general, really. And then another thing that's cool about mixers, I don't know if Steve's has this, but a lot of them have built-in effects. So you're able to use like reverb or delay and cool effects as well that you wouldn't get in an interface. So yeah, I think he has some settings in there for reverb and stuff. So yeah, so that can save you a lot of money also just by bypassing the interface and using one of the digital mixers. But if your mixer isn't digital, like I said, you can plug everything into that mixer and then just take the master outputs into your interface. So another thing that I wanted to talk about that's really, really, really important in live sound and also in live streaming is acoustics. And this is just like the sound of the space that you're in, like the properties of the room. Is going to affect how sound is transmitted through it. So you really have to pay attention to the surfaces in your room. Like there are some surfaces that are more reflective than others. For example, having a carpeted floor is going to sound generally better just because it's less reflective than like a tile floor. So, I mean, if you're in between like your kitchen and your living room, you're probably going to choose the living room. And just, you know, keep that in mind when you're listening back and monitoring to everything in your mix, because that can like greatly affect how things are picking up. Because if you're in a small room, you know, it's going to be a lot of drum noise if you have a drum set in your vocal microphone, for example. So you need to take that into consideration. As well as, you know, if you're playing out at a socially distanced gig at a restaurant, you know, you want to try to minimize background noise as much as possible as well, because that's all going to be heard in your live stream as well. And then also just to keep in mind, you know, if you're playing in a rock band, you know, I'm sure you all usually have, you know, the volume set to where you always set it and stuff like that. But for live streaming, you may have to make adjustments. You may have to play a little bit quieter or turn your amp down and do maybe just plug your guitar in direct in order to get the best possible quality. And then for the last thing, I just wanted to introduce you to a piece of gear that you may or may not be familiar with, but it's a DI box, which he's got a couple of them. Steve's got a couple there. And basically all this does is it allows you to take a 1/4 inch output, for example, from a synth or a guitar, and turn it into an XLR input, which you can then plug into a mixer. So a lot of mixers have 1/4 inch inputs, but in live sound, it's kind of uncommon for us to have 1/4 inch inputs available and ready on stage. So I use DI boxes, probably like 10 of them a night at a live show. So just an important piece of gear that you may need. We also have a link to that in a resource guide if that's something that you're interested in. So yeah, I know that was a lot of info, but like we said, we have all of the terms written out in the resource guide. And all of the microphones that we mentioned, the interfaces, and more info. If you need any more info, feel free to reach out to us, but also we are going to do a Q&A right now. So if we haven't answered your question already, we're gonna try to do that.
Definitely shout out to Brittany. Brittany, what you're asking about, and let me go ahead and read her question real quick. So she said, is it safe to say that if I am not performing with a band, just my backing tracks from my laptop and her B87A microphone, very fancy, I don't need a mixer? Yes, so for sure. Basically, at that point, you would have options, right? So your 2-track or your tracks or whatever that is, if you're playing something that's not live, it's coming from your computer or your phone already, right? So that is what's going to be outputting to your stream. Your only thing you're trying to figure out from that point is how to get your microphone and the tracks to be playing at the same time, right? Now, with the B87A, that's a wireless microphone. I can't 100% say, and maybe the other two can speak to it, that there wouldn't be some sort of latency issue. It is the top of the line, it's one of the top of the line, so there might not be, but it would depend on what you're outputting from. So say, Brittany, what software are you using? If you're using Ableton, if you're using whatever, and you're bringing that microphone in, it shouldn't be a problem at all. If you're just playing the tracks and you're using your microphone, we would just have to test that. So that's something, again, that's where audio engineers come in. But again, we can help you one-on-one with that. You said next question is when your in-ear monitors come into play, would you plug them directly in your audio interface? That is an also very interesting question. So when you're talking about if we are using wireless microphones going into into a digital audio workstation, a DAW, and you're outputting to a stream, whatever that output is, you would need to monitor from whatever that output is. So you would have to, I wouldn't necessarily say that you would monitor from your interface. You might want to monitor directly from your laptop or your computer, because it's going to have the same output as what's going to your stream. Again, I'm just talking in regards to not being sure about latency between wireless in-ears, wireless microphone, and having your microphone go in, line up with your tracks, be outputted. If you're monitoring back here still, there might, I'm not 100% sure, but you might not be hearing exactly what
that's something I had to work out a lot when I was getting into OBS and all that. The main idea is that you want to listen to yourself in sync with the music so you can perform and feel natural. And then if the whole stream is like even a half a second late, that doesn't really matter as long as your voice and the music are synchronized, because you're not trying to like beat match your lyrics to the stream that people are hearing. You just need to be in sync in the room. So the part about it being wireless is not a problem for synchronization. We're just talking about what you actually hear. And what I would recommend doing, if you have a really simple audio interface like I have, I would try using the headphone jack on your audio interface to plug that to your in-ear transmitter. So then it's basically like whatever you have coming out your headphone jack, which is going to be the music and your voice, you're going to get that in your in-ears synchronized perfectly in real time with nothing delayed. And you should be able to perform that way. And then the added step for your broadcast output is just to make sure you see somewhere on your output level how loud your voice is, how loud the music is, or you have somebody help you test it on a private stream to make sure you know where to put your levels so that it comes out. And honestly, your voice should probably feel to you like it's too loud. That would probably make it sound right for the stream. In a live setting, you know, you're behind the speaker stacks and the bass is like, "Goof," and it never feels like your voice is too loud live. I'm sure you know what I mean. But for streaming, one difference for you is probably you might have to be a little uncomfortable, be like, I am so loud. And that might be at where the level sounds right.
And that was that actually brings it back to one of the original questions that we saw in the chat. And that was just a simple, what is an audio interface? And we went over what they look like and what they are, but it is an important factor. And that clicked with what Steve was saying is an audio interface. It is a piece of hardware that takes some of the taxation off of your laptop or your computer. And so when you are setting up for a stream, when you do go into the settings, you're going to be choosing the output of your audio interface. So in that, it would make 100% sense that you shouldn't have latency plugging in headphones or your in-ear monitors, because it is going to be all the same output using the external interface. So 100%, I wanted to stamp what an interface is, but also, yeah, confirm. I think you're going to be good to go with your setup from there.
And Brittany, if you ever want to test a live stream and have a private audience who can help you diagnose and troubleshoot what's going on, I'd be open to that, to like hang out for an hour and you could just somehow we'd have a private Zoom meeting. And you know, one of us or me or whoever, we could just tell you what we're seeing on our side and help you figure out what might need to change for mix levels or, you know, whatever. Just a thought. I didn't think of that before.
Yeah.
We got a question.
Yeah.
You want to take that from here?
Yeah. So I'm looking at this question from VJ asking about using an 8-track interface. So you're asking how to get the main mix into Facebook or YouTube. So I would guess, so this is, I mean, it's just guessing because I don't know what type of interface you have, but most often every interface is going to come with software or a driver software that allows you to route the inputs and outputs of your interface. So yeah, the Fire Studio. So that's going to allow you to route the inputs and outputs in the actual Fire Studio software that came with the interface. And I'd say like, so I think I forgot to mention this, but really the biggest difference between a home recording setup and a home live streaming setup is that you don't need an 8-track interface because you don't need to multi-track. Like you don't need separate control of each track like you would in a recording studio, so that you can edit it in post. In this way, you know, like I said, just putting everything together and taking a 2-track out is the main difference between that. Which I'm not saying that you can't use your 8-track interface. I think that would work fine. And that's going to be a situation where we could help you one-on-one to help you figure out how to route your interface and make that work in your specific setup. But I don't know the PreSonus Fire Studio Awesome. I just read your comment. I don't know it offhand to tell you how to route that.
And when you guys are choosing your audio interfaces, I probably should have mentioned this also earlier. You're going to be confused on price points, maybe. Again, if you're just trying to get it done, you know, you can get something really cheap, really easy. You can get an iRig or whatever. Some of those get a little pricier, but it's still in the lower tier, what we would consider in the audio recording world for what an interface would be or any sort of mixing console. The thing that everybody's doing nowadays is coming with a proprietary software. So you can use these interfaces generally with anything. You can use this to do streams. You can use this for Pro Tools, Logic, Ableton, GarageBand, you name it. Where these softwares start to get interesting is at the higher price points. And I just want to explain this for anybody who's like at that higher level that's looking at something that's above $300, maybe even going to $1,000. It's going to be two things that are going to be the big difference makers. The first thing is going to be the hardware itself is going to have processing power, and that processing power can take off the load from your laptop or your computer and allow you to do something that of what me and all three of us and Pete were actually talking about, being able to do that and take the tax off of the CPU, the tax off the RAM, and allow you to have probably accomplish more on a multi-track situation or dealing with a lot of different tracks in your digital audio workstation while you're also recording. The other thing that comes, the second thing would be software. So a lot of these softwares like the PreSonus one or whatever are very cool proprietary softwares. Now, if you, again, this is for like the higher level people who are talking about audio interface, they're really trying to get into it. The biggest thing right now is like the Apollo series, and the Apollo series comes with UA. It's made by Universal Audio. Universal Audio has been around for a really long time. They purchased companies that made some of the original compressors like 1176s. If you're an audio engineer, any of that type of stuff, you start to get, they're just a great company. They're buying everything. Universal Audio also is making plugins, and their plugins replicate some of the best and highest quality gear in the whole entire world for the eternity of time. And they are awesome plugins. There's a lot of really good plugins. And so for somebody starting out, maybe spending another couple, $200, $300, $400 on something like that, that comes with plugins that are at that quality level, is worth it, because then you have access to something you're going to, again, have to then spend more money on. So UAD has its place. A lot of these upper tier interfaces have its place. The reason I really like my SSL, and I'm going to plug it one more time, for any engineer who's an engineer, they know what you're getting when you get this hardware. You're not going to get all the plugins, right? So that's why the price point for this is at like $300. It's like $329 for the one without MIDI. I think it's $380 for the one that has MIDI and multiple RCAs. With that, you're not going to get the software, you're not going to get the plugins, but you're going to get the actual hardware sound of something that's been around since, again, the beginning of audio recording history. So there's different reasons why you might get something for different purposes. And each and every one of us has a little interface that is about $100 or less. We all have those, and those are really important to have as well. But I just wanted to jump in. I'm sorry if I talk too much, but I just wanted you guys to get a better idea of what an audio interface really, really, truly is, and the scope of the value on what you're getting for the price points that you're getting into.
Yeah, you don't have to spend a ton of money to do a great stream. It's more to the point that you feel comfortable, you do something you really love and that you're passionate about, and you get it out there, and don't wait 3 months or procrastinate or something like that. It's much better to go live, even from your phone if you want to, and just start building up your connection with your audience. And then you can develop it incrementally. I didn't always have these cool lights behind me. I used to be in a little wood paneled Pittsburgh basement, and, I just got going with it. So, don't be intimidated by the tech. And if you do feel like there's something you need help with, please get in touch. You can start with Carolyn at 25carrickave.com. There is the email addresses in our resource guide, which we're going to send out by email, where we talk about the equipment from tonight's workshop, the headphones, the mics, the audio interfaces, which take a signal you can hear and turn it into a digital stream. And you can click on those links, check out the different options of what you need. And please send us an email if you want to schedule a private meeting or something to get some advice or test something, or just talk about what you are doing that maybe we didn't get totally into detail with.
Like we've spoken about as well, guys, we're touching on something that, again, you guys may be able to tell by now, this isn't just basic information. Yes, we just gave you enough, and there is enough on the basic level to get it done. But this is where, first of all, education comes in. And second of all, getting somebody to help you comes in. So we're offering the education side and the help. Education side, we have 16 modules. Again, I'm going to bring it back to what I talked about earlier, that really cover essentially all aspects of production, right? And we are very malleable with being able to just provide what we've already built, but we can also build things for you guys based on your needs. The entertainment business production is only getting bigger. It's only getting broader. The need for workforce development is growing. The need for bachelor degrees and associate's degrees just to get a quality job that you're proud of, that you love, and you can go to work and be proud of every day. It's changing rapidly. So we're trying to blaze that trail. We're trying to give you guys access right now to just free information. But we also are building these modules. So definitely follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook at 25Carrick. Follow us individually. We're all going to be building these together. Again, your question, you guys returning the question and answer and giving us feedback. As you saw with the chat, it opens it up immediately. As soon as we know what you guys want to learn, we're going to build it out. We're going to get it to you. And hopefully, once COVID is all done, we'll be doing all this stuff in person again.
Yeah, and this workshop is totally free, but we are accepting donations. There's a donate link in the resource guide and on the website here if you feel so inclined to donate to us. We're all, mostly out of work at this point in the pandemic, and we're happy to teach you guys whatever you want to learn. We have some really cool stuff coming up, some partnerships with some big companies potentially. And we want to be able to educate people in Pittsburgh to be able to get into the entertainment industry and bridge that gap. Don't forget to fill out our survey, follow us online, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. Super thank you to everybody that's here. Thank you to HearCorp, of course, that's our parent company, for even allowing us to be able to get this done. Thank you to the Forbes Foundation. This is 25 Carrick Avenue, and of course, we couldn't do this without you guys. So thank each and every one of you. Again, fill out that survey, get all your questions to us, and we look forward to having you guys back next month. We'll announce the date for that soon.
Thanks for watching. I just saw one more question come in from Lisa. If for doing a Facebook live stream, you're recording video from a phone or an iPad, would the audio connection be directly from the mixer to the device? I'd like to understand what components you have. For streaming from a phone, you basically most people would be using the built-in phone mic to capture something in the room. If you had a mixer, like a mixing board with a bunch of audio signals coming in, then you need that little adapter to take it from the analog mixer to make it go into your phone and then become a digital signal that the phone. So then basically your phone is functioning as your audio interface. I'm not sure if that answers your question exactly, but.
I'd say the iRig would be what you need for the phone, for phone streaming.
Thanks. I was trying to visualize which components are in that system for her specifically. Yeah. Cool. Oh, thanks to Tim. Yeah, thanks for coming, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. We are planning to do another series of live workshops. One of them coming up is going to be about streaming software. So like when you have a few different mics and a few different pieces of audio and you want to put it all into a stream, there are some free software programs you can download, and we can help you set it up to make it really easy so people can hear you, people can see you, you feel comfortable, and you can do something you love and make it easy. We wanted to talk about the software today in this workshop, but it just ballooned and there were so many preferences and parameters. We're just going to go in and do a screen share lesson and walk through what you do to set it up with, for example, OBS software to make it, to demystify the OBS monster. It took me a while to figure it out. So I know some people have some questions about that. So you can look forward to that. And like these other friends said, please fill out the survey and tell us what you need help with and what you want to do in the future. And remember, the modules we built, you can take one of them. So if you're an educator or a teacher or just doing some kind of leadership in your community, get in touch and let us know. Hey, we want to, do a photography class. Maybe we could even detail it to be photography just for kids with Android phones. Doesn't matter. It's not about like super tripods and lighting and stuff. It's like how to do something creative that's really cool that'll help you start a YouTube channel or help, people do something creative while we're in our home zones and have fun with it. So get in touch, let us know where you're coming from, what you're doing, what you want help with, and we will be absolutely happy to put something together.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Is that it?